What if I told you that the call you've been waiting for could happen in the next few minutes? Would you believe it? Or would you laugh and say, that's impossible? Because let's be honest, you've already convinced yourself that it's not going to happen, that they forgot you, that it's over. But what if the real problem isn't the situation? It's the way you're thinking about it right now. Stay with me, because this is where things get uncomfortable. Your mind has been rehearsing rejection, replaying silence, expecting disappointment, and then you wonder why nothing changes. Quick question, have you ever noticed how you check your phone more when you feel anxious but nothing shows up? Exactly. That energy, that tension, that desperate expectation, it pushes things away instead of drawing them in. And no, this is not magic. This is alignment. This is focus. This is how your inner state shapes your external reality. At first you doubt, then you resist, then you unintentionally block what you say you want, and this is where most people lose the opportunity without even realizing it. But there's a shift, a very specific mental switch that changes everything, and once you understand it, you won't chase, you won't beg, you won't overthink. You'll position yourself differently, and when that happens, things begin to move in ways you didn't expect, but only if you catch this before you fall back into the same pattern again. Your thoughts influence your emotional state and expectations in a powerful and often underestimated way, shaping not only how you feel in the present moment, but also how you interpret situations and anticipate what will happen next. Every emotion you experience is closely connected to a thought, whether you are aware of it or not. When your mind repeats certain ideas, it begins to create a consistent emotional pattern, and over time, that pattern starts to feel like your reality. This is why two people can face the same situation and feel completely different emotions, because their thoughts about the situation are not the same. The mind naturally creates meaning. It does not simply observe events, it interprets them, assigns value, and builds a narrative around them. When that narrative is negative, filled with doubt, fear, or insecurity, the emotional response follows that direction. A simple delay in communication can turn into a feeling of rejection if the thought behind it is, I am being ignored, while the same situation can feel neutral if the thought is, they might be busy. The event itself remains the same, but the emotional experience changes based on the thought attached to it. Thoughts also shape expectations. When the mind repeatedly focuses on a certain outcome, it begins to prepare emotionally for it. If your thoughts are centered around disappointment, you start to expect negative results, and this expectation influences your behavior, your tone, and even your level of confidence. You may become more guarded, less expressive, or overly cautious, which can indirectly affect how others respond to you. On the other hand, when your thoughts are more balanced or positive, your expectations shift, allowing you to approach situations with more openness and stability. Another important aspect is repetition. A single thought may not have a strong impact, but repeated thoughts gain strength over time. The mind begins to accept them as truth, even if they are not based on reality. This repetition creates emotional habits, where certain feelings become automatic responses to specific situations. For example, if you consistently think that things will not work out, your emotional state will align with that belief, leading to feelings of discouragement or anxiety before anything even happens. Awareness is the key to changing this pattern. Many thoughts operate automatically, without conscious attention. By becoming aware of what you are thinking, you create an opportunity to question those thoughts. This does not mean forcing positivity, but rather examining whether a thought is helpful, accurate, or necessary. When you begin to challenge unhelpful thoughts, their influence over your emotions starts to decrease. Your emotional state is not only influenced by current thoughts, but also by past patterns. Experiences from the past can shape how you think about present situations, creating expectations based on previous outcomes. If something did not work before, the mind may assume it will not work again, even when circumstances are different. Recognizing this connection allows you to separate past experiences from present reality, reducing unnecessary emotional reactions. Thoughts also affect your perception of control. When your thinking is focused on uncertainty or lack of control, it can create feelings of helplessness or stress. However, when your thoughts are directed toward what you can influence, your emotional state becomes more stable. This shift in focus helps you feel more grounded, even in situations that are not entirely within your control. Another important factor is the relationship between thoughts and attention. What you focus on grows in your awareness. If your thoughts are centered on problems, your mind will continue to find more reasons to feel concerned. If your thoughts are directed towards solutions or possibilities, your emotional state becomes more constructive. This does not ignore challenges, but it changes how you engage with them. Your expectations also influence how you interpret outcomes. When you expect something negative, you are more likely to notice details that confirm that expectation, even if there are positive aspects present. This selective attention reinforces your initial thought, creating a cycle where your expectations and perceptions support each other. Breaking this cycle requires intentional awareness and a willingness to consider alternative perspectives. The connection between thoughts and emotions also affects your physical state. Stressful or anxious thoughts can lead to physical tension, changes in breathing, and overall discomfort. Calm and balanced thoughts, on the other hand, can create a sense of ease and relaxation in the body. This mind-body connection shows how deeply thoughts influence overall well-being. Managing your thoughts does not mean eliminating all negative thinking. It means creating balance and not allowing unhelpful thoughts to dominate your perspective. By practicing awareness, questioning assumptions, and redirecting focus when necessary, you can gradually influence your emotional state in a more positive and stable direction. Over time, this practice changes your expectations. Instead of automatically anticipating negative outcomes, you begin to approach situations with a more open and flexible mindset. This does not guarantee specific results, but it allows you to respond to whatever happens with greater clarity and emotional control. Your thoughts are not fixed. They are patterns that can be observed and adjusted. As you develop this awareness, you gain more influence over your emotional responses and expectations. This creates a more balanced internal environment where your reactions are guided by conscious choice rather than automatic patterns, allowing you to navigate situations with greater stability and confidence. Letting go of desperation attracts better outcomes because desperation changes the way you think, behave, and emotionally respond to situations, often pushing you into a state where your actions are driven by fear of loss rather than clarity of purpose. When someone is desperate, their focus becomes narrow, centered on trying to force a result, hold on to something, or avoid an unwanted outcome at any cost. This emotional intensity can distort judgment, create impatience, and lead to choices that do not align with long-term well-being. Desperation often comes from the feeling that something is missing or that a specific outcome is absolutely necessary for happiness or stability. This creates emotional pressure, and that pressure reflects in behavior. People may overthink, overreact, or overpursue situations, unintentionally creating resistance instead of flow. In relationships, opportunities, or personal goals, this energy can be felt even without words, influencing how others respond and how situations unfold. Letting go of desperation does not mean losing interest or becoming indifferent. It means releasing the emotional urgency that creates tension and imbalance. When you are no longer emotionally dependent on a specific outcome, your mindset becomes more grounded and open. This shift allows you to see situations more clearly, make better decisions, and respond instead of react. Clarity replaces emotional noise, and this clarity often leads to more effective actions. One of the key changes that happens when desperation is released is the restoration of emotional balance. Instead of constantly worrying about what might happen or what is not happening, your attention returns to the present moment. This presence improves your ability to observe situations accurately without exaggeration or fear-based assumptions. When your mind is calm, your perception becomes more reliable and your responses become more aligned with reality. Another important aspect is that letting go of desperation changes your energy. People naturally respond to emotional energy, even if they are not fully aware of it. Desperation can create pressure in interactions, making situations feel heavy or forced. On the other hand, calm confidence creates a sense of ease, which allows interactions and opportunities to develop more naturally. This does not guarantee specific results, but it improves the quality of engagement in any situation. When desperation is present, there is often an attempt to control outcomes. This control can manifest as constant checking, over-analysis, or trying to influence situations beyond what is healthy or necessary. However, excessive control tends to create resistance because it removes flexibility. Letting go of desperation introduces trust into the process, allowing things to unfold without unnecessary interference. This does not mean passivity, but rather a balanced approach between action and acceptance. Emotional detachment from outcomes also reduces anxiety. When your happiness is tied too strongly to a specific result, every delay or uncertainty becomes emotionally stressful. By loosening this attachment, you reduce the emotional highs and lows associated with anticipation. This creates a more stable internal state, where your well-being is not constantly dependent on external events. Letting go of desperation also improves decision-making. When you are not driven by urgency or fear, you are able to evaluate situations more objectively. You can consider options more carefully, recognize patterns more clearly, and choose actions that are aligned with long-term goals rather than short-term emotional relief. This leads to more consistent and sustainable outcomes over time. Another important shift is in communication. Desperation often affects the way people express themselves, sometimes leading to over-explaining, seeking validation, or trying too hard to get a specific response. When desperation is released, communication becomes more natural and balanced. There is less need to convince or force understanding and more space for genuine exchange. This creates healthier interactions and reduces misunderstandings. Letting go of desperation also strengthens self-worth. When your value is not tied to a specific outcome, you begin to recognize your own stability, independent of external validation. This internal sense of worth reduces the emotional need to chase or cling, allowing you to approach situations from a place of confidence rather than lack. This shift naturally changes how others perceive and respond to you. Another effect of releasing desperation is improved patience. Instead of rushing results or forcing timelines, you develop the ability to allow processes to unfold naturally. This patience is not passive waiting, but active trust combined with consistent effort. It allows space for better timing, better alignment, and better decisions to emerge. Over time, letting go of desperation creates a cycle of healthier outcomes. As your emotional state becomes more balanced, your actions become more intentional. As your actions become more intentional, your experiences tend to improve. This reinforces a sense of stability, reducing the need for desperation even further. In essence, releasing desperation is about shifting from emotional dependency to emotional stability. It is about allowing outcomes to develop without force, while maintaining clarity, effort, and self-respect. This state of balance often leads to better interactions, clearer thinking, and more natural alignment with opportunities, because what flows without pressure tends to unfold with greater ease and effectiveness over time.